Hey guys, today I want to share something a little different with you. Recently, I have finished up this bag. This is a technique called Nalbinding. In this technique, you use a needle and pull the yarn all the way through in each stitch. I'll talk more about that later. But as I finish this, one of the things I noticed is these stitches. The pattern of the stitches was just beautiful. And it brought to mind to me another activity that I've loved quite a bit. I have made these purses here using a large crochet needle. This is an N hook, but I made this out of plarn. Now some of you might wonder, what is plarn? And the answer is that it is yarn made out of plastic grocery bags. In order to make plarn, what we do is we take a plastic grocery bag, and I'm sorry if this seems a little awkward, I usually do this on my lap, but we cut off the bottom portion, where the seam is, and we cut off the top where the handles are, just to kind of even everything up. And when we do this, one of the things you'll notice is that we are left with an open tube. So I like to flatten that out. Sometimes that gets caught up. And then I will fold it in half and fold it down. Notice that it's still open at this end and here. So I will cut off these parts to tidy it up. And then what I like to do is I take a gallon Ziploc bag, and using my fingers as a gauge, I just start cutting pieces off here. What happens is that these pieces are actually rings. And what you do, if any of you have ever played with making rubber band chains, is I take two of these, I'll stick one through there, then reaching through that loop, I will pull the tail end through, and now if you pull this snug, you have a knot, small knot that'll disappear in the yarn, and then I just keep repeating. Come down again, push through, pull through that loop, and keep going until I have enough that I can roll up into a ball like I showed you earlier. Now, because of my earlier habit of crocheting bags, I have a lot, and I mean a lot, of balls of plarn. Can't quite get it in the shop there. So what I've been doing is taking one of these pre-made balls, looping it through whenever I need to join, just like we did in making the plarn, pull that tight, and then I pull off as much plarn as I want, and then I just find one of these knots, and I undo that work that we already did of making the yarn. Sometimes easier than others. But by doing this, it means I'm always ready to add again. So this brings me to one of the first things that I would change if I were to do this project again. Instead of doing this from balls of plarn, I would probably recommend that bag that we used at the beginning when I started making the plarn. I would just start with one of those bags and add as I need. But in using this method of joining, it also means that it's really easy to, as you can see I've done here, change colors periodically. I come to a certain point, like right here, and when I went to add, instead of adding brown, I just added some more gray. So, put my needle back on, and I'm ready to keep going with my stitch. And just to show for any of you who aren't familiar with Nalbinding, put the needle through a couple different loops. You have different types of stitches that you can do in different ways. But this is the Dalarna stitch, if I'm saying that right. And then you pull it all the way through. Now, I learned a little trick from watching the people from Papua New Guinea that make the Beelan bags, and I will use longer strands because to pull it through without it being too tangled, speaking of tangled, I will actually figure eight this around my pinky and my thumb as I go. So it pulls it through pretty quick, and then it gives me a little bundle that won't get too tangled when I go to pull the next stitch in. So, some pros and cons when it comes to Nalbinding with the grocery bags. First off, as I showed you, the joins are really easy to do. You can't even really see in here the knots that join all the pieces together. I also love the bulk because most of my Nalbinding so far has just been with really light acrylics, which don't Nalbind up very fast. This bulky plarn gives me a pretty good sized bag pretty quick, and of course I love the price. Some of the cons though. One of the things you'll notice is my needle has been getting pretty dirty. The print and other things on your old grocery bags can make your needle dirty, so I wouldn't recommend using your favorite needle. I don't have it right now, but I keep getting the stuff also all over my fingers from doing this. In addition, one thing you might notice about the plarn is because of the way we make it, it does have this doubled nature to it. Sometimes when I'm going through a stitch, if I'm not careful, I might catch, let's see here, like right here, this is technically one loop, even though you can see that this is two parts. So it's really easy to split the yarn, essentially, if you're not careful. So, as I said, things that I would do differently, if I did it again, I would probably work from the bag instead of from the ball. In addition, the Dalarna stitch is an F1, and what that means is that we're going through one stitch from the old part when we join it, and I'm really not sure how strong that's going to be. I need to finish the bag and find out how it goes. But in my preference, if I were to do this again, I might use a stitch that is an F2 stitch just to give me a little more stability where those are joining. But I'll have to finish this up and see how it goes. Anyways, this has been my experience Nalbinding with grocery bags. I know it's pretty different from other things that I do, but hey, this is Jeff and Things. So if you have ever made anything with grocery bags, whether it's Nalbinding or crocheting, I'd love to hear your experiences. I hope that this encourages people to try it for any of their fiber crafts. Comment, let me know if you have any experience with this. And guys, I will talk to you later.